Hello and welcome. India's largest airline has been sent a show-cause notice by the aviation regulator, the DGCA, over its handling of a special needs child who was prevented from boarding his flight. The airline had refused to allow the child and his family to board the flight, claiming he was in a state of panic and that he posed a threat to other passengers. No amount of appeals and explanations by fellow passengers, including a group of doctors who were taking that very flight, made them change their stance. This week, the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, after investigating the matter, said that the airline handled the passengers inappropriately. Was this unusual? Will this lead to one seeing inclusion and dignity being lived and practiced every day in airports and public spaces across the country now? Or is this a systemic problem? In February, a young woman was prevented from entering a restaurant in Gurugram because she was in a wheelchair. The reason given was that her presence might disturb other customers. So, denying boarding to a 13-year-old boy at the Ranchi airport, that really has brought back the spotlight back on the gross insensitivity that we often make persons with disabilities or the specially abled face. Tonight, on We the People, we want to return to this horrific episode because it's not just a story about one family's horrifying tryst with injustice and discrimination. It's also a testament to the power of individuals who refuse to be silenced. This is about all of us. What does it say about us as a society if we turn a blind eye to segregation of some citizens? First, tonight on the show, we have Jija Ghosh. She is one such individual who refused to be silenced. Jija Ghosh is an Indian disability rights activist. She was born with cerebral palsy. She was forced to disembark from a SpiceJet flight in February 2012, ironically, while she was on her way to speak about disability issues at an international conference in Goa. She then filed a case against SpiceJet in 2012. And she won. Jija, you won, but despite the guidelines issued by the DGCA, despite the Supreme Court orders in your case, incidents like the one we saw last week in Ranchi seem to keep recurring. We go one step forward, two steps back, 10 years on, another similar incident. Your reaction when you heard of what happened with this young child and his family?
This is very upsetting for us because we have been trying so hard to bring a change. And if at the end of it, we realize we haven't moved on at all. It's very, very upsetting for us, and I was more upset because it was a 13-year-old boy. He is a child. And just imagine what must have gone through him and his parents. I was very upset.
So you were very upset, Jija Ghosh, responding there. I'm sure this must have been horrific, really takes you back to your own horrific experience 10 years ago. And you know, the irony is those least able to fight have to fight harder just to be treated equally. Thank you, Jija, for joining us. It's important for us to have you on the show to remind everyone that these are big fights. But in the end, is the law enough to safeguard the rights of the specially able? Joining us now is Ira Singhal. She's an IAS officer, Deputy Commissioner of Revenue in the National Capital of Delhi. Ira Singhal topped the UPSC exam in 2014, and what's more, She's the first differently able to achieve that feat in the general category. She has scoliosis, that's curvature of the spine. Ira, thank you for joining us. You cleared the UPSC exams. You were posted in the IRS, but you weren't allowed to actually join or take up the post because of your disability. You then filed a suit against the Central Administrative Tribunal. In 2014, you won your case, you got selected, you have been working at your job. Was it smooth sailing after that?
To be honest, not exactly. Because the problem is that every new person that you meet in the world, you have to convince them again of your capability. If you're a person with disability, the world automatically assumes you have no abilities. And even if you're sitting on the seat, every single time you meet a new person, you have to convince them all over again. Maybe when they come to your office and you're directly there on the seat and they need something done from you, maybe not in that moment. But other than that, it's a constant battle still to just get the world to see you as an individual, a part of the society, equal part of the society, and even, not even equal, just someone to give you an opportunity. And that's something that has still not gone away. That's something that we still have. And no matter what your achievements are, no matter how much you do for the world out there, you are still constantly being defined by your disability. The world is not ready to give you that platform, to give you that space in the social world around you, So, well, yeah, it's been there.
Well, Ira, you have what, 170K followers on Instagram. And if I look at your Instagram account and I look at your feed, you've traveled extensively all over the world. There's no holding you back. But how would you respond to the fact that when we hear of these instances, it's always somebody saying, other people are disturbed by your presence. Like this young lady who was going out with her family for a dinner was told that, other customers will be disturbed. In your case, I'm guessing once you're even through the system, everybody else has to adjust. You have to change, you have to accommodate, and nobody's willing to do that, it seems.
Yeah, I know. And this is all assumptions, by the way. Nobody has gone out and asked everybody, are you going to be disturbed? Are you going to, have a problem in your regular life? And are you saying that this person with disabilities life is less valuable, their platforms are less valuable than a slight discomfort of everybody else? So tell me this, if you're in a restaurant and there are loud people, doesn't everybody else get disturbed by that? But are you throwing out every loud person? And how are you defining other people being disturbed? By seeing you? Is that the logic, that the people will see a disabled person, so they will be disturbed by that? Because that's pretty much it in a restaurant. What else? So it's horrific that these things are happening, and it's horrific that people are still allowed to, think like this.
Absolutely, absolutely. In time again, the specially abled are told to compromise or to settle to get some semblance of access or accommodation. I mean, I'm guessing, settle for the IRS. Why aim for the IAS? Now that you've got through, rest on your laurels at home. Why actually do you want to go in and work? That's probably what happened. But these should not be negotiable. Let's go across to Ekta Bhyan. She's a Para-Olympian. She's represented India at the Tokyo Olympics. She's an Asian Para Games gold medalist, a national awardee who represents India in the women's club and discus throw events. Thank you so much for joining us. A huge pleasure and honor to have you. It was raining medals for India at the Paralympics in Tokyo. 19 medals, I think that was our tally. What does that mean? Does that mean things have changed? What has it been like since all of you have been back home and the headlines, we moved on to the next headlines?
Well, after the Tokyo Paralympics, the best part of the whole event was that there is huge increase in the visibility of persons with disabilities. Here I want to mention that we are persons with disabilities. We are persons first and disabled later. So usually what is observed that we are perceived as a disabled person having lack of abilities to make decisions to get that dignity. And when we talk about such incidents, specifically like denials, so it is a very common, usual thing for us. We don't have ramps at every place. And it is not only about inaccessibility of infrastructure, but also attitudinal barriers we face on daily basis. Even a taxi driver refuses to have a ride in their car, saying that the car may get dirty because of wheelchair, or someone doesn't give their property on rent if they are having someone disabled in their family. So there are many kind of attitudinal barriers also. And in Tokyo Paralympics, a campaign was started with the 15 campaign, which means that this is the 15% population of the world. And it is very surprising fact that out of this 15%, 1% out of 10 is having the accessibility to a right assistive device. Many of them are not having right assistive devices like wheelchair or artificial limbs. So we need to have a multi-dimensional approach. We have to consider so many aspects to prevent such incidents. And I think this beginning must be from here. We must be more empathetic. We must be at least a good human being, sensitive enough to understand the needs of others.
We must be more empathetic. I want to go across to have Dr. Uma Tuli. She's the founder of the Amar Jyoti Rehabilitation and Research Center, joining us on the show again. A huge honor to have you, ma'am. Dr. Uma Tuli, we must be more empathetic, right? How do we do that? I mean, we should actually, let me just introduce Ma'am Tulib. She is the founder of the Amar Jyoti Rehabilitation and Research Center, former Chief Commissioner for Persons with Disability. She's an educationist. Her contribution in the disability sector has earned her several accolades, and I really do not have the time to go through all of them because it's such a long list. But she's a Padma Shri awardee. She's been a pioneer in the concept of inclusive education. Dr. Tuli, I want to ask you, we clearly need to make all of us more empathetic, right? And children, I mean, it's the best place to start is when you're young. And I'm guessing children are naturally empathetic. I remember my nanny said once the wisest thing to me once, that children are blank blackboards. They behave, they act, they react to what they see around them and what they are taught. So inclusive education, is that where we start? How hard is it to do that?
I'm glad you asked this question, because we have been fighting this battle for the last 40 years. Initially, people thought that inclusion is absolutely impossible. But let me tell you that scenario is changing definitely, although slowly. I personally feel that equal opportunities and full participation need to be given and are now being given in a better way than before. There is policy, there is Disability Act, but implementation is a problem, you know. And that is the reason why what we heard from Ira and the second speaker, the Paralympian, I personally feel again that things are changing, opportunities are many more than before, but still it is an iota of what needs to be done. We need to create greater awareness, make people more sensitive, and the specific needs have to be understood by people in civil society as well as in every walk of life. I honestly think that we are definitely progressing as far as sensitivity is concerned, but the main problem is implementation of law, implementation of national policy. When we talk of inclusive education, it is through inclusive education that we can easily give equal opportunities and full participation. That is my experience of 40 years. And our students have been doing very well. You talked of Ira passing the IAS examination. There is one physically challenged girl, Urmul Kher, who has also studied in Amar Jyoti and passed the IAS examination, although it was just the primary section that she cleared at Amar Jyoti. I personally again feel that
So
given
just
an
the
opportunity, persons with disability are second to none.
Second to none. Given the same opportunities
And
as
now
others, they would be second to none.
Yes.
Mukesh Jaiswal is deputy, talking about whether, you know, laws make a difference, so the laws have to be implemented. Mukesh Jaiswal joined us. He's the deputy director of the National Power Training Institute at the Ministry of Power. He suffered from polio as a child, uses the support of crutches to get around. Sir, 4% reservation in government jobs. That's what the law says. But is it practical? Is that the reality? What is the reality on the ground? What has your experience been like as you work in the government sector?
Ma'am, first of all, I congratulate you and thank you so much for organizing such a very important aspects related to the disability. As far as concerned 4% disability, this is true. The government has already introduced. But unfortunately, it is the mindset of the leader of the particular and individual organization. It is my own observation, ma'am. Many times, just Tuli madam said and the Ira madam said, actually, just I prefer to talk in Hindi. ये मेरा अपना मैम जो एक एक्सपीरियंस रहा है, मैं एक छोटे से लॉ की बात बता रहा हूँ मैम, आपसे मैं शेयर करना चाहूंगा. जब ट्रांसफर पॉलिसी का रूल बना कि जो डिसेबल्ड है उनको ट्रांसफर नहीं करना है, लेकिन इसमें एक लाइन ऐड कर दिया गया कि सब्जेक्ट टू दी एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव कॉन्स्टेंट. अब उस एक पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट को लेकर के जितने भी डिसेबल्ड है उनको कहीं ना कहीं बहुत सारे जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के जो लोग रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं, जो डिसेबल के मैटर्स को देखते हैं, वो प्रॉपर तरीके से हैंडल नहीं करते हैं. और उनको जहां चॉइस का जो रूल है गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया का, डीओपीटी का रूल बहुत क्लियर है कि जो हैंडीकैप है उनको नेटिव प्लेस में पोस्टिंग दिया जाए या फिर जहां उनका चॉइस है. लेकिन एक छोटे से शब्द जो उसमें इंट्रोड्यूस कर दिया गया, उसका नैरेटिव बना दिया जाता है कि फॉर एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव कॉन्स्टेंस, और ये कह करके उनको कहीं भी ट्रांसफर कर दिया जाता है. और फिर कोई भी एक्ट आप जब आप लिखते हैं उसके खिलाफ, तो ऑब्वियसली ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के अपने वैल्यूज हैं, उनके अपने सिस्टम, उन्हें लगता है कि मैनेजमेंट के खिलाफ कोई लिख रहा है तो उनके खिलाफ एक्शन स्टार्ट हो जाता है. तो मैं तो कहना चाहूंगा कि हमारी जो गवर्नमेंट है, अगर डिसेबल को सच में कुछ देना चाहती है तो बहुत क्लियर कट, कोई भेग इस तरह का डिसीजन नहीं हो जिससे कि डिसेबल को प्रॉब्लम हो. मैम सेकंड चीज जो मैं कहना, yes ma'am.
So,
second thing,
all right. So there's a reality check there from Mukesh Jaiswal, but thank you for sharing that so candidly.
Just one important, ma'am, just one thing is very important. Just I want to share, please. Forgive me, ma'am. Disability Commission में अगर आप जाएंगी, एक बार मैं चाहता हूँ कि NDTV की टीम उसको सब जाए और देख के. डिसेबिलिटी कमीशन में मैम ऐसे एक एग्जाम्पल देता हूँ मैम. एक ब्लाइंड पर्सन, मैं जब गया अपने प्रॉब्लम को लेकर के, अपने इश्यूज को लेकर के, तो मुझे लगा कि कहते हैं ना कि औरों का दम देखा तो मैं अपना दम भूल गया. तो मैंने देखा कि एक ब्लाइंड पर्सन की पोस्टिंग रात को उसको ड्यूटी दे दी जाती है. तो ये कितना ट्रिवियल है मैम, ये कितना पैथेटिक सिचुएशन होता है डिसेबल के जीवन में. तो बट देयर इज अ बिल मैम, देयर इज अ डे. तो हम लोग तो बिलीव करते हैं मैम कि रुक जाने की वही बात है. NDTV का मैं सुना करता था कि 100 करोड़ बहाने हैं तो चलते रहने की कई वजह हो सकते हैं. तो वी आर जस्ट ट्राइंग टू मूव ऑन मैम. And once again, thank you so much.
Doing your best to move ahead, but the road is just paved with so many hurdles. We have a Disability Act in India, but you have ramps, fitting rooms, accessible bathrooms, you know, being used as garbage or storage areas in malls, etc. Jo Chopra, a social activist, the executive director of the Latika Roy Foundation, joins us now. That's a Dehradun non-profit that works with special needs children and adults. Jo Chopra, is the problem here, you know, that overwhelming the majority of these instances, it's, you know, non-disabled persons who are the gatekeepers of access and accommodation, or even the policy makers in this case? Actually, I'm not sure, because I think Dr. Tuli was also instrumental in, you know, the Disability Act in the making of that.
Yeah, but with all due respect to Dr. Tuli and to all of the people who work in disability, a disabled person, him or herself, has a very different understanding, and that's often missing. I think yesterday my organization's board met, and we have a disabled member as part of the board, and it was electrifying to listen to his ideas, because he sees things from a very different perspective, and we can't imagine what it's like to be a blind person unless we're blind, or to be intellectually impaired unless we have that issue. So I think we have to have more involvement of disabled people in every phase of life. It's not just in policy making, but every room should have a few disabled people in it. That's what makes a difference. And the other thing that makes the difference is when children grow up with each other, when children have inclusive education. It's good for disabled kids, it's good for typical kids. And without that, I don't think that the attitudes that we're talking about are really ever going to change. We have wonderful laws, we have great policies, but as everyone has been saying, they're not being implemented. And it's because of the attitudes.
We've talked about attitude, we've talked about laws. What about, but you know, we're living in this new age, and what about technology? Can technology help the specially abled? If you have difficulty in mobility, they're forced to give up travel and other life-affirming activities because there is a lack of options. But I want to go across to Alcatron. We have, Ganesh. Ganesh Sonwaha of Alcatron Mobility now joins us. Alcatron produces a range of products for the specially abled, and they are supposedly more affordable compared to ones that are imported. So at least you don't have to import them anymore. And you have an affordable wheelchair that allows the specially able to use, for example, toilets without assistance. So the concept here is that you can give, or everyone should have a life of dignity and a life that is one of safety. And you can make money from this, Ganesh?
Actually, it is more about filling the availability gap, like you rightly said. That the right kind of products were just not present in the country. So if a person is on a bed or is a wheelchair user, to use bathrooms was an impossible task or a very difficult task, which could not be fulfilled by even European products because they were not compatible to Indian infrastructure. So we built a wheelchair which adjusts according to your bed height, your commode height. It can go into even narrow bathrooms, and that is what solved this problem for thousands of people in the country.
So what you're saying is you filled a vacuum. There was a vacuum all these years, 70 years after independence. There was nobody who was producing an Indian wheelchair that would allow someone to use the bathroom on their own. And I want to just play that video again. One of your clients, actually, someone who's made India very proud, Sarvana Kumar, is a para table tennis player who plays for India. He was supposed to go in 2017 to Jordan for an international table tennis tournament. But he could not go, or he thought he couldn't go, not because he wasn't prepared for the tournament, but because there was no option. Someone was not able to accompany him, so how would he be able to go to the bathroom, take care of his personal hygiene? And then he accessed one of your wheelchairs. Quickly, if you can tell me, you worked, out of your schedule to make sure you could get him access to this wheelchair, and it made a difference?
Yes, we had just initiated the prototypes of the product, but it was, catching up a lot of buzz in the spinal cord injury community because it was the first time they were going to have a product which would enable them to travel freely. So we had launched a product called Freedo Go, and Sarvana Kumar wrote to us that I can't wait for your launch. I need to represent India. And if you don't give me this wheelchair in a functional shape, I won't be able to go and represent India. So we left everything. We got the prototype ready. He went there. He could use the bathroom, and then, he left a page-long review and made videos, and we got 100 pre-orders for the product before even it was launched. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your service. Thank you for your time, for the effort, everything that you've done for this. We want to end. We've heard so many voices. But we want to end on a positive note. So I want to go across to Kshitij, who's the owner of the Echoes Cafe in Delhi. And it's a cafe. Beg your pardon, it's a cafe that stands out because it employs over 15 deaf and mute staff members who will give you a very warm welcome. They say, I think there's a signboard in your cafe that says, come on in, we're deaf and mute, but we love having a conversation. So tell me, Kshitij, when you hear of people who are employed, who are specially abled, often you hear them and don't see them, they're in like back-end jobs, but you are breaking away from that stereotype.
Yes, so as when we started, I was looking for a different thing that could be done, which can bring positivity to the life of people who are visiting our place. So we wanted the place to be such where, once someone gets in, they can see how the magic is really happening. And because I have been from the hospitality industry, I have always found differently abled people being hired by big hospitality brands, but they are always, being employed at the back end, and the people cannot really see the magic what they are doing. So we wanted to bring them forward directly to the front end where they can interact directly with the customers and they can showcase their skills, their ability and their talent. Because, we wanted to bring a change in the mindset of the people also, as generally, whenever we see a differently abled people, we, as rightly said, we don't empathize, but we sympathize. So we wanted people to see that difference, that sympathy is not going to get them anywhere, but empathy can,
Absolutely.
make them move a long way. So with that in mind, we designed the place accordingly, wherein, we had several questions as to how they'll interact with the customers, how they'll order. But instead of focusing on those questions, we tried and focused on finding a solution for those
Find a
questions.
solution. And the idea here of this cafe, we're glad, we want to be part of it to celebrate human spirit and leave no one behind. Thank you all. Life provides us with so many obstacles on a daily basis, and it's inspiring to meet people who beat the odds. It is a struggle to deal with the challenges we face, to overcome the odds, and we all need motivation and inspiration from the world. And so tonight we're going to leave you with this clip. We hope you enjoy it.